Case File 11473B. The note Sarah Miller wrote. 1. When Detective Mark Reynolds first picked up the note, he didn't pause. It was late, the end of a routine apartment search tied to a case that wasn't supposed to matter. Receipts, insurance forms, tax paperwork, pages that all looked the same after hours on your feet. The note didn't scream for attention. It sat there like everything else. But its neatness felt intentional, like something written to be found, not saved. 2. The apartment belonged to Daniel Brooks, 42, questioned in connection with minor financial fraud. No violent history, no prior arrests. The place was ordinary, folders labeled by year, envelopes stacked by category, a desk that looked more like paperwork storage than a workspace. The note wasn't hidden in a safe or taped under a drawer. It was placed among documents, aligned like it belonged in the system. 3. From the first read, the tone felt wrong in a quiet way. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't a diary. It wasn't a confession. 8 sections, structured and complete with no date, no signature, no greeting, no closure. The writer never used I or me. There was no emotion in the phrasing, just description, just sequence, like someone recording what had already happened. 4. It described an underground parking garage attached to a shopping mall. Not the mall's name, only markers. Second level, left side, a concrete pillar with chipped paint. It mentioned one security camera that would temporarily stop recording and automatic lights that would activate late. Those details didn't read like imagination. They read like someone standing there beforehand, taking notes. 5. A 15-minute window was specified with precision. The note explained why that time mattered: shift movement, reduced traffic, the moment the garage thinned out enough for silence to take over. The language was controlled, almost clinical. No uncertainty, no maybe, no if. It read like the writer had already tested the timeline in their head until nothing else fit. 6. One section focused entirely on the knife. Blade length, a small chip along the edge, rust near the handle. The writer stated that the first wound would not be fatal, that the victim would still be breathing when the space around them emptied. Reynolds couldn't explain why that sentence stuck. It wasn't dramatic. It was logistical, like a line from someone who had done this before or watched it happen. 7. The note was logged, photographed, entered into the evidence system as a document with no direct relevance to the fraud case. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a confession. It violated no law. Police departments don't open homicide investigations because of a paper describing a crime that hasn't occurred. So it became an item number, a scanned PDF in a folder, another thing the system swallowed. 8. Evidence intake excerpt. Item, handwritten note, 1 page, black ink, unlined paper. Location, Brooks' residence, desk drawer, file folder marked 2015. Disposition, photograph plus secure storage. Assessment at time, non-pertinent to primary offense. No follow-up initiated. 9. Months passed. The file sat untouched among dozens of others that never led anywhere. Reynolds thought about the note occasionally, usually at night when the station was quiet, and pushed it away. Experience teaches you not to chase every strange detail. Most of them are nothing, and if you treat every nothing like a warning, you burn out and start missing the real emergencies. 10. 13 months later, February 12, 2017, the call came in. A body had been found in the underground parking garage of a shopping mall. When Reynolds heard the location and the estimated time of death, he didn't interrupt the dispatcher. He didn't ask for repeats. He felt something cold settle in because he already knew which file he was going to pull. 11. Her name was Sarah Miller, 33 years old, an accountant, stable job, limited social circle, no known enemies. Security cameras in the garage had stopped recording for several minutes due to a technical malfunction. The automatic lights activated late. Time of death fell inside the exact 15-minute window described in the note, down to the same rhythm of empty, then closed, then too late. 12. Reynolds read the note again, slower this time. Every section carried weight. The pillar with chipped paint existed. The left side lane existed. The camera named in the note had a gap in footage. What once felt like unnecessary detail now felt like a map. There were no obvious errors, no extraneous flourishes. It no longer read like speculation. It read like documentation. 13. Investigators tried to force a rational explanation onto it. The safest theory was that the note had been planted. But who plants a note a year in advance and gets this much right? The note didn't just predict a murder in a garage. It predicted timing, equipment failure, and the way the scene would be discovered, details that shouldn't be predictable unless someone controlled them. 14. Timeline summary. 1907, Sarah enters garage. 1912, camera feed drops. 1914, lighting delay recorded by system log. 1916-1920, estimated window of fatal injury. 1928, garage begins closing procedures. Next morning, body discovered by staff. The note's window, 1910-1925. 15. Handwriting analysis became the turning point. Letter formation, spacing, pressure, rhythm, indicators that are hard to fake across an entire page. The conclusion was unanimous. The note had been written by Sarah Miller herself, the same woman found dead in the garage. No one in the room rushed to speak after that, not because they believed in the supernatural, because they understood what the report implied and how badly it broke the timeline. 16. Lab note excerpt. Comparison set. Sarah Miller's known writing samples, employment forms, signed checks, personal notes recovered with consent. Result: consistent individual characteristics across sample set. Conclusion: high probability same author. Confidence level strong. No signs of tracing detected. 17. Additional testing dated the ink and paper to the period when the note was first discovered, not later. No evidence of alteration. No indication it was written after the homicide. The document existed long before the events it described. That fact alone dismantled every theory investigators tried to build. If Sarah wrote it earlier, why? If someone forced her, where were the signs? If it was a hoax, how did it match the system logs? 18. Daniel Brooks was questioned again. He didn't change his story. He didn't appear deceptive. He had no connection to Sarah, no calls, no messages, no shared locations, no financial overlap. When asked how the note ended up among his paperwork, he said he didn't remember placing it there and didn't remember ever seeing Sarah's name until police said it out loud. That answer was recorded as non-informative because it didn't move the case forward, only deeper into uncertainty. 19. The investigation stalled the way some cases do, not with one big failure, but with a slow exhaustion of options. Every procedure had been followed, every test completed. Leads circled back into dead ends. What remained couldn't be proven in court. The note became the center of the case, and also the thing the case couldn't legally stand on, an artifact that explained too much and proved nothing. 20. The case was closed due to lack of evidence. The note was placed in a separate file without classification, like the system didn't know what to call it. Detective Reynolds later said the most disturbing part wasn't that Sarah predicted her death. It was that he held that document in his hands when she was still alive and did nothing. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know what action looked like when a warning looked like paperwork. 21. Several weeks after the case was officially closed, an internal review was quietly initiated. Not a reopening, just a procedural audit. The question wasn't whether the crime could still be solved. It was whether anything had been mishandled early on. The note resurfaced during this review not as evidence but as an administrative anomaly. No category fit it. It wasn't predictive material. It wasn't a threat assessment. It didn't belong to any checklist the department used. 22. A senior analyst flagged one detail that hadn't been discussed openly. The note didn't just describe the crime, it described the aftermath, the delay before discovery, the way the garage would feel empty before closing, the sequence of how the body would be missed, then found. These were not elements a person usually imagines when thinking about their own death. They were elements someone imagines when thinking about what comes after. 23. Another internal memo questioned Sarah Miller's state of mind. Her medical records showed no history of diagnosed mental illness, no therapy, no prescriptions consistent with delusions or dissociation. Coworkers described her as methodical, quiet, and predictable. Friends said she planned weeks ahead and disliked surprises. Nothing in her life suggested a fixation on death, let alone the ability to map it in detail. 24. Investigators revisited her routine, the routes she drove, the parking garages she used. The mall appeared in her records only occasionally, never regularly. There was no evidence she had scoped the location repeatedly, no parking tickets, no cell tower data suggesting long stays. The level of familiarity implied by the note did not match her documented behavior. 25. One detail caused particular discomfort. The note never used conditional language. It didn't say if, or might, or could. It stated what would happen. In training, detectives are taught that language reveals intent. Certainty suggests knowledge, not fear. The tone of the note was not anxious. It was resolved. That distinction mattered more than anyone wanted to admit. 26. A forensic linguist was consulted unofficially. Their assessment wasn't added to the case file. According to their notes, the structure of the writing resembled technical documentation more than personal narrative. The writer wasn't processing emotion. They were organizing information. That raised an uncomfortable question. Was the note meant as a warning or as a record? 27. Daniel Brooks' file was reviewed one last time. Financial records, employment history, known associates. Nothing connected him to Sarah Miller or the mall. No motive surfaced. No behavioral markers suggested involvement. If the note had never been found in his apartment, his name would never have appeared in the case at all. 28. The final internal conclusion was simple and deeply unsatisfying. The investigation had followed procedure. No policy violations were found. No actionable steps had been missed according to existing guidelines. The system had functioned exactly as designed. That realization disturbed more people than the note itself. 29. Detective Reynolds requested that the note remain preserved in its original condition. No additional annotations, no reclassification. He argued that changing how it was labeled would be dishonest. The document wasn't misunderstood. It was understood and still useless. That, in his words, was the most unsettling part. 30. Years later, new detectives occasionally encounter the file during training rotations. It's shown not as a mystery to solve, but as an example of limitation. A reminder that some warnings don't arrive in forms the system can recognize. And when they don't, they become paperwork until they become history.